pirates, gold statues worth hundreds of millions, and a crew that vanished without a trace. This is why Coco Island is off limits. Coco Island lies over 300 miles southwest of Costa Rica, isolated, uninhabited and hard to reach. It's the first piece of land you come to west of Costa Rica and Panama that isn't directly next to the coast, which made it a perfect place for pirates to hide their stolen goods. The island has many stories associated with it, but none have brought more people to its shores than the story of the Treasure of Lima. Peru was overtaken by the Spanish during the 16th century after the Inca Empire was defeated, and they quickly got to work looting the whole country. They hoarded all of the things they stole in the most secure place, which was Lima, the country's capital. After doing a great many things to annoy the local population, a rebellion against the Spanish occupiers swept across the country in the 1820s. This revolt eventually led to the Spanish occupiers being kicked out of the country, but they weren't going anywhere without their gold. It could take up to 6 months of sailing each way from Peru to Spain, so calling for reinforcements wasn't an option. To protect all of their wealth from being taken back by the rebels, the Spanish chose to send it to Mexico, where they had a stronger presence. The problem was that there weren't any Spanish ships in Lima's harbour when the rebels were closing in on the city. There was, however, an independent trade ship that belonged to a British merchant. Due to the urgency to get the treasure out of there, the Spanish hired the ship under the command of its captain, a man named William Thompson. They didn't trust him and his crew, so the Spanish sent several priests and a guard escort to make sure the treasure arrived in Mexico. Thompson's crew obviously saw what was being loaded on board, and the temptation was too great. After the ship was far enough away from land, the crew organised an ambush and managed to kill all the Spanish on board. They dumped the bodies into the sea and changed their course to head for Coco Island. Not only was this a safe place to go, as no one lived on the island, but it was also the only choice. The plan was to hide the treasure there until things cooled down and the Spanish had stopped looking for it. They knew it wouldn't be possible to go straight to the mainland in Spanish territory with all that treasure and hope no one would ask any questions. As for the treasure itself, it was said to include a large amount of gems, jewellery and gold, but the main points of interest were said to be 2 life-size statues of the Virgin Mary holding a baby Jesus, all made from solid gold. Gold statues of this size would weigh around 1.5 tons, which would make them worth around $100 million each, not including the added historical price bonus. The crew hid the treasure on the island and tried to sneak back to the mainland to find a place to wait out the coming search for them by the Spanish. After word reached Mexico about a huge amount of gold going missing, they did indeed mount a search and quickly found Thompson and his crew, who were trying to slip back into North America. His crew was tortured and killed, but they spared Thompson and his first mate under the condition that they take the Spanish to the island and show them where they buried the treasure. After a long and awkward journey, a group of Spanish soldiers took Thompson and his crewmen onto the island and started heading towards where Thompson said it was buried. At some point in the journey across the island, Thompson and his crewmate bolted into the thick vegetation in a planned escape and managed to avoid the initial pursuit of the Spanish guards. They hid in the thick undergrowth while the Spanish spent a few days looking for them before abandoning the search. As for Thompson and his crewmate, they were never heard from or seen ever again, and the general belief is that they died on the island, along with the knowledge of where the treasure is buried. This story has been the cause of over 300 main treasure hunting expeditions on the island, which is quite a lot considering how remote and hard to get to it is. The island can only be reached by boat, and trips from the mainland take over a day in each direction. There have been so many problems caused by treasure hunters on the island that the practice has now been banned. It's still open as a tourist location, but searching for rumoured treasure is now illegal and comes with heavy fines. But is the story true, and why hasn't anyone found it yet if it is? One common argument is that there wasn't anywhere near as much treasure on the ship as claimed, and there are no surviving Spanish records that mention 2 large gold statues. But this isn't surprising with records kept in the early 1800s. So far, no one has found any trace of the treasure, but they have found a few interesting things that keep the tale alive. Several very old wooden chests have been found buried in shallow areas around the coast, but they have always been empty. There are also a series of small and shallow tunnels dug into seemingly random areas of the island, but again, no one has ever found anything in them, or at least no one has admitted finding anything. During the occupation, there was a huge amount of wealth collected in Lima, and it was the last Spanish stronghold in the country, so the story could very well be true. But this seems like nothing more than just a convincing treasure story. There isn't any actual evidence that there was anything transported on Thompson's ship, and no records of that amount of gold going missing, but it's enough to convince hundreds to sail there and have a go at finding it. The longest single search for the gold was conducted by one man called August Kiesler, a German adventurer who searched the island for nearly 20 years between the 1990s and 1910s. He only found a few gold coins, which many think he planted there himself, and they also seem unrelated to the Treasure of Lima. So, is there anything there or not? Personally, I would have to go 50-50 on this one. Usually treasure stories are nothing more than a good campfire tale, but the island is in a perfect location for pirates to hide their loot, and it's the only place to stop for a huge section of the Central American coastline that isn't close to the mainland. Pirates are known to have gone there to hide out and supply on fresh water, but whether any of them buried treasure there or not is anyone's guess. What do you think? Is there still a long-lost treasure collectively worth hundreds of millions somewhere on the island, or is this just another pirate's tale? If the treasure is real, it's still out there, on an island where searching for it is illegal, and where everyone who knew the truth disappeared.